After a nice stretch, the weather is about to turn much more uncomfortable. Thanks for joining us for the Fox 61 News at 10. I'm Brent Harden. Heat and humidity will build back in with another stretch of oppressive conditions on the way. Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank has a look now at how hot it will get and how long it could last. Rach.
Yeah, this time we are looking at a 3-day heat wave. So that means 3 days in a row with temperatures in the 90s. But I think Tuesday and Wednesday are of the greatest concern for people that work outside and those that don't have AC, because of the heat humidity combination, it could feel like up to triple digits. So these are the days that I think the heat is going to have the greatest impact on your life. So whatever you did a couple of weeks ago, taking breaks, staying hydrated, keeping an extra eye on pets, we're doing that all over again the next couple of days. Here's a look at the numbers. Currently, we are in the 70s, and it won't be as refreshing by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. Instead of overnight lows in the 50s to near 60, we're in the 60s to near 70 degrees, so rising levels of humidity, and then it turns hot as we head through the day tomorrow. Inland, mid to upper 90s, along the shoreline near 90 degrees in Brantford and Guilford, but it'll be the coolest here along the shoreline of Middlesex and also New London counties with highs in the 80s. But everybody else is scorching, and when you combine that heat with the humidity, here's a look at the heat index by tomorrow afternoon. We'll do it again on Wednesday. We'll talk about when showers and storms and cooler temperatures return coming up, Brent.
All right, Rachel, thank you. And with the extreme heat on the way, the state's hot weather protocol will take effect tomorrow morning and remain in place through Thursday afternoon. Cooling centers will open across the state. Residents can find the nearest location by calling 211 or visiting 211ct.org. State officials are also urging people to stay hydrated, limit time outdoors, and check on those most vulnerable. Well, as families continue to recover from a devastating fire that displaced at least 15 people in Waterbury last week, one victim is now pleading for help. She says her cat is alive and trapped in the rubble. Fox 61's Valerie Moravi is live in Waterbury now after speaking with her. Valerie.
Yes, Brent. Well, Anaya Christopher tells me she believes her cat Shadow survived the fire, but remains stuck inside the debris. And despite ongoing efforts to rescue the cat, she says firefighters were unsuccessful. A devastating fire left 15 people displaced last week in Waterbury. Anaya Christopher says she was at her boyfriend's house when she was suddenly notified of the fire.
When I got the call for the fire, I was kind of annoyed. I was hurt, scared. But I didn't make it in time, as you can see. So the fact, I'm scared. I still am.
Christopher had recently moved to Waterbury in March. She moved to the area with her 8-year-old cat, Shadow. But last week's fire didn't only take all her belongings, but now her cat went missing.
He was with me all the time. So to know that he's still stuck on the 3rd floor right now, the fire marshal's done so much. The police have done a lot, but he's still up there.
This footage and photos provided by Waterbury Live and Raw Media capture a glimmer of hope by using a drone and got Shadow on camera as proof that the cat was still alive.
And other animals could possibly be up there too right now. And that's scary.
Firefighters attempted to rescue the cat, but they were unsuccessful. Local animal advocates like the Waterbury Wolfpack went to the Waterbury Board of Aldermen meeting Monday night to ask city officials to help rescue these pets, who they believe could still be trapped. Waterbury Fire Chief Javier Lopez says they're working along with the animal control, and they have placed traps and food to help rescue Shadow. But the risk of being around the condemned building are serious, especially after 3 firefighters were hurt while putting out the fire.
Firefighters went up there to try to reach the cat. That building is condemned and unauthorized to enter for anybody else. We actually had one firefighter fall through the floor, and he was lucky that the way he fell, he wedged his leg in between floors, so that kind of held him up a little bit.
As of now, we know Shadow has been in the rubble for nearly a week. Now, Christopher tells us she's not going to give up on her cat. Meanwhile, Chief Lopez tells us they will come back out as soon as they spot Shadow just in the right position to rescue him. For now, live in Waterbury, Valerie Moravi, Fox 61.
All right, Valerie, thank you. 6 people are displaced after a fire at an apartment building in New London. Firefighters were called to 9 Hope Street just after 4 p.m. and found smoke coming from a second-floor apartment. Officials say an occupant had already put out most of the fire before crews arrived. The fire was contained to the kitchen, but the rest of the apartment suffered smoke damage. The person who helped put out the fire inhaled a significant amount of smoke, but declined a trip to the hospital. The Red Cross is assisting the displaced residents, and the cause of the fire remains under investigation now. A playground at Pequannock School in Windsor is closed after a fire there earlier today. The Windsor Fire Department responded and put out the flames. No students or school programs were on site at the time. No injuries were reported. Police are investigating, and the school district says it has provided security video and other information. Officials are still assessing the damage and say the playground will remain closed until further notice. If repairs are not complete by the start of the school year, the district says alternative plans will be put in place. And a fire on Beverly Road in West Hartford displaced 2 people this afternoon. Crews found heavy flames on the 3rd floor and in the attic, but quickly brought the fire under control. Everyone inside escaped safely. 1 firefighter suffered a minor injury, and the Red Cross is helping the family. Well, an 18-year-old is recovering after he was shot by a police officer in Manchester last night. Police say the man was armed with a knife when the first officer arrived. Fox 61's Alicia Hercules has the latest from Manchester, including reaction from neighbors.
The shooting happened here on Parker Street. The road was closed for hours as police conducted their investigation. The neighbors I spoke with described this neighborhood as safe and quiet, but after the shooting, they say they're surprised and still on edge.
We saw police going by, and within minutes we heard gunshots.
2 neighbors say they were out walking their dog when they heard the gunshots.
It scared us, so we headed right for the house.
Sunday night, just before 11 o'clock, police got a call reporting an active domestic disturbance. They say the caller reported that the suspect was armed with a knife. When the first officer arrived, investigators say they saw an 18-year-old man in the roadway who they say was involved in that disturbance. At some point after arriving, an officer fired their gun at the 18-year-old. He is now recovering at an area hospital. Police have not released information as to why the officer fired their weapon. Kashif Chowdhury, a neighbor, recalls seeing several cop cars on Parker Street.
I heard some screaming and yelling very loud, and then cops showed up, and there was probably like 6 or 7, and then more came, and at some point it was probably like 12, 13, 14.
He says seeing so many police cars was concerning.
I was kind of alert, like on edge.
Neighbors say they hope the young man is okay.
Such a shame. You know, it's probably just one wrong move, and this is what happened to him, and he wasn't thinking.
The Inspector General is now leading the investigation into the shooting. We'll update you both on air and online as more information is released. In Manchester, Alicia Hercules, Fox 61.
And in a separate police shooting in Manchester, this one last October, the Office of Inspector General has ruled that an officer was justified in shooting and wounding a man. Police say officers pulled over Samuel Lee on I-84 on October 25th for a mismatched license plate. Lee then sped away, and cruiser video shows him firing 6 shots at Officer Kyle Bussey during the chase. Bussey returned fire, hitting Lee in the hip before taking him into custody. The report found Bussey reasonably feared for his life, and was justified in firing back. Well, 2 juveniles are now charged with murder in connection with last week's deadly shooting outside a Waterbury nightclub. The suspects appeared in New Britain Juvenile Court today, 3 days after the arrests. Now, police say 22-year-old Trayvon Dunbar and 18-year-old Zanaya Dawkins were shot and killed near LA 42 nightclub. Investigators are expected to provide an update on that case tomorrow. The former New Britain Mayor Aaron Stewart has returned more than $183,000 in unused public campaign funds after ending her run for governor. Stewart received more than $828,000 through Connecticut's public financing program, but suspended her campaign just before the Republican state convention. The repayment was included in her campaign's final finance report. Stewart ended her campaign after a city-ordered investigation raised questions about her use of a city-issued credit card while she was mayor. State police and the U.S. Department of Justice are also investigating her conduct in office. The Hartford City Council has appointed Adam Cloud to once again serve as city treasurer. The council approved the appointment during tonight's meeting to fill a vacancy in the elected office. Cloud previously served as Hartford's treasurer and will complete the remainder of the current term. Now, this comes as the city's former treasurer, Carmen Sierra, spoke out last week after she says she was escorted out of her old office by police. It happened just 2 days after she announced her retirement. Sierra and her attorney held a news conference last week arguing she had a legitimate reason to return to the office to help with the transition process. The mayor's office, however, said it was inappropriate for a former elected official to access secure city facilities without notice after leaving the position. Sierra's retirement came as the treasurer's office and the city's more than $1 billion pension fund are undergoing an audit. Sierra says her decision to step down was unrelated to that review. The death of Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has reshaped the balance of power in the Senate ahead of what could be a pivotal few months. The shift could have major implications for high-stakes legislative battles as well as judicial and cabinet confirmations. Michael Yoshida explains what the changing political landscape could mean for Congress.
Did you know that?
Shake-up in the Senate following the death of Republican Senator Lindsey Graham.
We have lost a statesman that would bring both sides together as he did through the legislation, but he also built a bridge for the Senate to the White House.
While Graham's death kicks off a political scramble to replace him on the November ballot, for the time being, it won't change Senate Republicans' narrow majority, as South Carolina's Republican governor is appointing a temporary replacement. Still, the GOP is losing an influential voice and a veteran dealmaker.
His voice is going to be really missed in terms of the relationship that Senate Republicans have with the president and his team, because he was so good and so effective at talking to the president and was so respected by the president.
Graham was a key player in several ongoing and upcoming legislative battles, including Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche's confirmation process. He also chaired the Senate Budget Committee, which is trying to muscle through parts of President Trump's voter ID bill. Also, amid a White House push, Graham advocated for more defense funding for the Iran war, which faces a difficult path in Congress. And he was a vocal supporter of Ukraine, just days before his death celebrating a major victory for his bipartisan push to impose crippling tariffs on countries that import Russian oil and energy sources.
It's clearly a loss for Ukraine, primarily because Lindsey Graham was a Republican who both strongly supported Ukraine and had Donald Trump's ear.
In Washington, Michael Yoshida.
And meanwhile, Lindsey Graham's sister has been named to temporarily replace him in the Senate. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster announced that Darlene Graham Nordone will serve the remaining months of her brother's term, which expires in January. Nordone is expected to be sworn in Wednesday and will become the first woman to represent South Carolina in the U.S. Senate. Nordone has never held political office. Right now, she serves as commissioner of the South Carolina State Commission for the Blind. A special primary is expected next month, with the general election scheduled for November. And Senator Richard Blumenthal said he is mourning the loss of Senator Lindsey Graham, and he pledged to carry on one of the bipartisan efforts on which the two of them teamed up, a Russia sanctions bill. Blumenthal says passing it would be a fitting tribute to Graham. He says despite their political differences, the two senators built a close working relationship on support for Ukraine.
And I hope that my colleagues will recognize that a fitting tribute to Senator Graham would be prompt passage of this measure on the floor of the Senate.
A preliminary medical examiner said today Graham died after a tear in his aorta. It's called an aortic dissection, which is related to the hardening of the arteries. An official cause of death will be released after toxicological and microscopic testing.